With 11 more episodes, Netflix has officially released the last chunk of the Cuphead show. Although a bit polarizing in some aspects, the show overall has seen quite a bit of praise and will no doubt end with a bang.
You're number 1 on the naughty list!
But as we say goodbye to these characters for now, we feel that we should take one last look at how they've grown and changed in terms of their morality. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is the Cuphead Show Season 3 characters, good to evil. Now obviously, major spoilers ahead for the entirety of this show's final season, with minor spoilers for the Cuphead show as a whole, so you might want to give it a watch first. As always, we're going to start off with our purest and most heroic character and work our way down to the most evil. These characters are the Good. Easily earning our gold medal of good is none other than Santa Claus. Considering he's, Santa, it really isn't a surprise at all to see this guy at the very top. For starters, he's very much your traditional type of Santa portrayal, with it all being played very genuinely. It's made very clear that he not only wants people to have a good Christmas, but he also wants to just help people find the joy in being nice. What really sells this Santa's goodness, however, is his willingness to cut people a bit of slack despite their naughtiness, and even give people like Cuphead and even the devil second chances.
Threatened Santa.
Though he doesn't give the devil the toy train he wanted, Santa still puts his name on the nice list, and that is kinda sweet. Maybe Santa's plan didn't work out perfectly in the end, but it's the thought that counts. Our silver medal of good actually has to go to Henchman this time around. Now, in our previous lists, Henchman hasn't been able to make it up too high. While he's certainly not the meanest demon, he still assists the devil with his schemes and even seems to encourage and enable the devil's evil behavior with how much he coddles him. Still, we actually didn't see much of that during this last season. While there were still plenty of moments where Henchman comforted his boss or tried to make him happy, there were also times where Henchman tried to subtly curb some of the devil's evilness, like in A Very Devil Christmas.
That's exactly the kind of thing you can't do.
He also called out the devil on kidnapping Mugman during the season's premiere, obviously not completely approving of it. With just how nice of a guy he is and how little Henchman really does wrong in the season, we're able to finally give him a high spot on our good list. Moving on to the bronze medal of good, we have the Goat. Yeah, that goat that's always seen outside Elder Kettle's cottage. It actually gets a bit of attention this season. Not much, mind you, but enough to where we felt that we had to give this horned friend some credit. The goat's goodness is mostly shown in the episode Roadkill, where we see him repairing Elder Kettle's fence after he carelessly runs through it with his car. The goat does this even in spite of Elder Kettle just ignoring his good deed. Then, at the end of the episode, after the devil has left and Elder Kettle is feeling abandoned and lonely, the goat makes the effort to keep him company and give the old guy some comfort, which is really nice. Finally, living up to his hero status a bit, we have the titular Cuphead. Simply put, Cuphead sees a massive improvement this season when compared to his Season 2 outing, namely in both the season premiere and the series finale. We see Cuphead's bravery and determination for those he cares about on full display when he tries to save both Mugman and Miss Chalice in those respective episodes. The occasional kindness he shows can also extend to characters outside of his family as well, as we see him go out of his way to free the souls in the season premiere, something he's only ever done accidentally before.
Hey buddy, welcome back!
And help King Dice out of the gutter in the episode Down and Out. However, for as much as Cuphead has grown, he still isn't quite a full-on hero yet, hence why we couldn't place him in the top 3. He still has his moments of being a brat, like when he tried to fight for the role of Cup Rogers, not really caring if Mugman wanted the role too, as well as continuing to be careless and reckless. Still, it's nice to see that he's getting better. Moving on, we have Elder Kettle. For the most part, Elder Kettle was more of a minor character in this batch of episodes. When he did show up though, he was usually pretty nice. And not just to the brothers. In the episode Roadkill, we see him take care of the devil, who he thinks is a stray cat. Even when he gets annoyed at the so-called Mrs. Meow Meow, he can't stay mad at him and even makes him a special treat. Too bad the devil ran off before he could enjoy it. We then get to see a really nice moment with him in the Christmas special, where he comforts the Cup brothers after they accidentally destroy their Christmas tree. We also see Elder Kettle show a bit more of his mischievous side through his little baby bottle prank, but since the brothers pranked him first in that episode, we'd say it's fair game. Keeping with the cottage trio, up next is Mugman. While Mugman may have calmed down quite a bit this season, not being quite as savage or prone to violence as we saw before, we didn't really see him do a whole lot of good either, though he still tries to look out for Cuphead and even Miss Chalice at times. Mugman isn't afraid of joining in on the pranks or mischief. Additionally, when the trio had to deliver a package to Ribby, Mugman was the one who was most enamored by the sparkly shoes inside the box, leading to him trying to steal them. Though we should mention that when it came to Elder Kettle's fake baby bottle prank, Mugman was willing to confront a bear in order to save him, believing that not even someone as cruel and terrible as Baby Bottle deserved to be eaten by a bear.
Baby Bottle's a monster, but we can't let her get eaten by a bear.
His quick forgiveness of Cuphead was also really nice to see, and just speaks to the deep brotherly bond that these two have. We wrap up the good section with Quadratus. We only see him briefly in the season premiere, and while he's just as helpful as he was before, we felt like his attitude during the whole exchange brought him down a few notches. We can understand the frustration of being interrupted while on vacation, but with just how reluctant and uncaring Quadratus seemed about helping, it just wasn't a good look. Still, we will give him credit for giving Cuphead the shock he needed to summon an elevator down to hell. With the good section wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. Starting off this section is the most charming ghost around, Miss Chalice. In all honesty, Miss Chalice is probably the character who's changed the least over the course of 3 seasons. At her core, Chalice is a girl who loves dancing, mischief, and can be a bit self-centered and greedy, but has a soft side deep down. While she plays pranks with the brothers and even uses her possession powers to steal and cause a ton of trouble for Elder Kettle, as well as the other residents of Inkwell Isles, Chalice is unable to betray her best friends, and is even willing to accept death so long as Cuphead and Mugman don't get hurt. It's actually really admirable, and makes it clear why Chalice and the boys are such good friends, even if she isn't always the best influence on them. Next up, we have Sally's stage play. After only briefly being seen in Season 2's episode Dead Broke, Sally finally gets a full episode to shine in this latest season. She's both an actor and a director of the local theater, and seems to care only about finding the right person for the starring role in her play. With such an important goal in mind, Sally comes off as a very serious woman, which means that any failed auditions with her are a one-and-done type of deal. No exceptions.
You 3 are an insult to acting.
This seems especially unfair to someone like Mugman, who was doing perfectly in his audition, and was only caught up in Cuphead and the Devil's sabotage. At the very least, Sally gives the 3 of them jobs to do backstage, so we suppose that is something. Entering the bottom half of our list, we'd like to talk briefly about Ribby and Croaks. Like the Goat and Sally's stage play, these 2 familiar frogs only really get 1 episode to shine, and even then, it's more of a cameo than anything else. When Ribby gets a mysterious package of exploding shoes delivered to him, it's quickly revealed that Croaks was the one who sent them to him. But as an added twist, it's also revealed that the 2 of them trying to kill each other is just something that they do, seeing it as not that serious and instead something to laugh at.
When did this become our thing, huh?
It's strange and very silly, but it seems to work well for them, so we have to accept it. After things are cleared up, the 2 frogs give the shoes back to Cuphead, Mugman, and Chalice, not really caring if they're in danger of being blown up. So we have to take some points off for that. Managing to just barely stay out of the bad section, we have Porkrind. For the most part, this salesman swine is as surely as ever still being annoyed by the Cup brothers, and doesn't care much about anything other than his own profit. He's stern about his pricing to a fault, as we see in the Christmas tree episode, and while he's not actively trying to kill Cuphead and Mugman this time around, Porkrind also doesn't seem to care too much about their well-being. At least, not at first. Once he's told that the package that he had them deliver is filled with exploding shoes, Porkrind's conscience starts to get to him.
At sundown, they go kaboom!
In the end, he takes back the shoes and gives the Cups their ball back, accidentally blowing himself up in the process. He may still hate them, at least according to him, but his secret soft side is just enough to keep him from our bottom tier. And with that said, we have finally arrived at the worst Cuphead characters around. And while it may seem predictable at first, you might be surprised. These characters are the bad and the evil. Just outside the bottom 3, we'd like to give a quick mention to the Orphanage Penguins. We meet these ladies through Miss Chalice's flashback, and they easily live up to the mean orphanage lady stereotype. They force the children that they're looking after to do hard and exhausting chores. They take away food as punishment, and they don't allow fun of any kind.
Lunch is only for children who abide by the rules.
In fact, that's their number one rule. With penguin ladies as cruel as these, we can easily understand why Chalice would not only want to run away, but would also feel like she couldn't depend on anyone. For our bronze medal of evil, we're giving it to King Dice. In this season, we see King Dice stuck in the gutters and at his lowest point. That is, until he runs into Cuphead again. This time around though, Cuphead actually helps Dice out, getting him a club to perform at and nearly as much fame and adoration as he had before. All of that just wasn't enough, however, as King Dice was still happy to betray Cuphead at the drop of a hat.
You're talking to your number one, remember?
Not only did he use Cuphead as a means to get back on top, but he also didn't seem to care about tricking him into signing away his soul, even after everything. Between this and how much demon murdering he did last season, it really does speak to just how ruthless King Dice can be when he puts his mind to it. Earning the silver, yes, silver medal of evil, is the devil. Now, to be fair, for the most part, the devil is just as evil as ever. He still enjoys causing pain and torment to people like Cuphead and Mugman, as well as Miss Chalice or even just random people on the street. And he's still a pretty terrible friend to henchmen, all things considered.
Why didn't you tell me?
True to his name, the devil is cruel, petty, and can be totally manipulative at times. Not even bonding with Chalice through dancing is enough to stop the devil from showing her how painful death can be. Like, come on. Henchman's comment of it being unnecessarily graphic is right.
This seems unnecessarily graphic.
But despite all of this season is also probably the nicest that the devil has ever been. Going back to the episode Roadkill, although him acting like a cat starts out as just another one of the devil's schemes, he actually doesn't take Elder Kettle's soul afterwards, not wanting to hurt someone who was so nice to him. Following that, in A Very Devil Christmas, we saw the devil give Cuphead the toy train that Santa got him for Christmas. Not because he had to, but because the devil seemed to genuinely sympathize with Cuphead, agreeing that it was hard trying to be good. While we can't say that these smaller moments made up for all the evil that he's done throughout the rest of the series, we still felt like they kept the devil from being put any lower, because sometimes a bit of good can still go a long way. Finally, our gold medal of evil is going to Stickler. We're sure many of you are surprised, but just hear us out. When he was first introduced, Stickler was mostly just seen as a very work-focused demon, who was a bit of a party pooper and wasn't the type to apologize for doing his job. This isn't exactly evil, but when your job is literally making sure that hell stays productive by collecting innocent souls, it can be seen in an evil light if you look at it from the right angle. In this latest season, Stickler certainly seemed like he was at his worst as well as his most strict, usually going to extreme measures to push the devil into doing his job.
Someone is taking the stairs.
Not only that, but it was made clear that Stickler seemed to only care about his job, and not the devil or anyone else. After all, he was the only one to notice that Chalice and her dancing was meant as a distraction so that she wouldn't have to fulfill her side of the deal. And Stickler revealed this to the devil so that he could go back to soul collecting, not caring one bit if all their dancing was making the devil happy. Speaking of which, unlike the devil who actually was able to drop his devilish shtick and be nice on very rare occasions, Stickler has no such soft spot, being cold and business-minded through and through. For these reasons, we're giving Stickler our gold medal of evil for managing to outshine the devil himself in terms of callousness. But let us know in the comments section if you agree, and tell us who you think the most evil character was in the Cuphead show. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.